Flipping houses is one of the most lucrative investments in real estate. However, it requires a unique set of skills and sufficient experience to identify the right house to flip. In this chapter, we'll discuss what house flipping is, how to choose the right property, the costs behind the upgrade, and a few tips and strategies to guide you through the process. What does flipping houses mean? Flipping houses involves buying a property, holding on to it for a while, and selling it for a higher price. This property may be in poor condition and needs to be renovated. Many people like to buy properties with prices that are expected to rise in a couple of years so they can sell them and make a profit. Other people with enough capital prefer to renovate the property and sell it as soon as they are finished upgrading. This speeds up the sale, but requires sufficient funds and hiring a trusted contractor to get the job done properly in the shortest time possible. House flipping can be advantageous to both the investor and the buyer. The investor typically purchases the property at a lower price. With a few upgrades, they can make a significant profit even after adding the costs of repairs, and the new buyer benefits from purchasing a completely renovated house at a competitive price. This strategy has become increasingly popular in recent years, even among people who don't work in real estate. Before selecting a property, an investor needs to study the local market and find out the appealing factors to buyers in the neighborhood and the property's cost, condition, unique characteristics, and renovation costs. The ideal properties are underpriced and located in a neighborhood in high demand. Once the investor finds a property, they must determine how to finance the renovations. Cash is the best way to finance this project if the investor has enough capital, as it offers the highest profit margin with no interest fees required. Another method is taking a short-term bank loan to pay for the renovations. The investor must apply for the necessary permits to comply with building standards when performing the renovations. Any plumbing, electrical, or layout upgrades require permission from the local authorities. Depending on the investor's architectural knowledge and the property's condition, they decide on the type of upgrades to implement on the home. If it requires more than a few touch-ups, hiring a professional contractor might be the way to go. Flipping houses allows investors to buy a house at a low price within their current budget and use it to gain a profit in a few years in its original condition, or upgrade it and sell it in a few months. You can make a good income in a short time if you know the ins and outs of this business. An upgraded house is attractive to new buyers who don't want to go through the trouble of fixing the property. As an investor, renovating a property and turning it into a dream house for someone can be extremely fulfilling. You'll also contribute to increasing the value of a neighborhood when fixing subpar homes in the area. One of the main risks of investing in flipping homes is choosing a poorly constructed house, which can be extremely expensive to renovate. You may exceed your budget and eventually lose money on the investment when you flip the property. Another downside to this strategy is you need to have considerable experience in real estate and architecture to evaluate the property's condition and pick the right house to flip. The costs of flipping a house. When flipping a house, you'll be incurring purchasing, repairing, carrying, and marketing costs. These costs vary depending on the property's size, location, and scale of renovations required. For a lucrative investment, an investor shouldn't spend more than 10% of the property's price on these costs. Let's take a look at what each of these costs entails. The property's acquisition price includes its purchase price and additional closing costs. These include the title fees, insurance premiums, and extra fees to settle this business transaction. The property's price includes the house's and land's cost and size, whether it's an apartment, house, condo, single home, or multi-home living. Remember that condos only include the property's price without the land. The price may also vary if appliances or special features are included in the construction or interior design. Before deciding to buy a property, first, you must find out the average cost of properties in the same neighborhood or local market. Keep in mind the 70% rule when flipping a house to determine the maximum price to spend on the property. This rule states that you should pay 70% of the after-repair value while subtracting the property's renovation costs. This offers you a 30% profit margin while calculating the most significant expenses of the property. If you're just getting started with this strategy, opt for a property that requires minimal repairs or a few cosmetic touch-ups. The property's closing costs fall on the investor, including title company fees, title insurance, property insurance and taxes, and transfer taxes. These costs should not exceed 5% of the total purchase price. If the purchase price is $100,000, expect to pay $105,000 accounting for the closing costs. You must calculate all the added costs of buying a property to determine how much it will cost to flip it. This way, you'll have a better estimate of your profit margin. When it comes to determining the cost of renovations, it comes down to the property's size, its condition, and the cost to hire a professional contractor for the job. You'll also need to factor in delivery fees in case you order new appliances on the property. Your costs are typically divided into two categories: building and appliances costs. Building costs include painting and hardware materials, lumber, steel, etc., while appliances include kitchenware like a stove, a fridge, a washer, a dryer, and an HVAC system. You'll also incur labor costs for people installing appliances or hardware, which could be charged per hour or per project. The rates are negotiated beforehand and included in the contract's agreement. You may hire a few laborers to finish the renovations, like an electrician, a plumber, a painter, a handyman, a landscaper, or a general contractor. It's recommended to purchase a property needing only cosmetic repairs like a fresh coat of paint, new carpet, light fixtures, refinishing hardwood floors, new bathroom and kitchen faucets, planting flowers, mowing the lawn, and cleaning up the driveway. To estimate the cost of renovations, a good rule of thumb is to spend $30 per foot on minor repairs. These minor repairs can be done in a short time before putting the house on the market at a higher value. While the property's purchase price won't be as low as a distressed house requiring extensive renovations, you can still gain a decent profit while cutting back on carrying costs. Of course, your return on investment increases in higher rehab projects. The carrying costs are paid on a regular basis as long as you're holding on to the property. These costs encompass any loans you took to buy the property and to finance the renovations. You could divide the costs between a bank loan and a personal credit card by taking a private money loan to buy the house and using your card to renovate it. You'll have to pay interest and other fees the bank or hard money lender requires. The interest rate might be higher than the standard market rate, but you may not have any other way to purchase a property. Make sure to factor in these costs before deciding on your investment. Another type of loan is a home-style renovation loan, which allows you to buy the house and renovate it with one loan. To qualify for this loan, you need to make permanent repairs to the property, which increases its value. Lenders usually ask to approve the contractor working on the property and limit the rehab costs to 50% of the after-repair value. If you decide to use cash, you have to consider all the costs required to flip a house. You may have enough cash to buy the property, but not enough for renovations or extra expenses. While you won't pay a hefty interest rate, you still risk spending a sufficient sum of your personal money on one property, which limits your investment in multiple properties. When settling the property's transaction, you may be required to pay taxes for the rest of the year in addition to property taxes every month. This rate ranges from state to state, so make sure to look up local property taxes. Property insurance is also a requirement, covering you financially in case of damage or hazards like a fire or flood. These hazards must be accounted for, especially when you're purchasing a distressed property. You'll need a different kind of insurance policy for a flipper house since you won't be living in it. This type of insurance is called vacant property insurance and covers any damages that can be incurred during the flip. The carrying costs also include utility bills, which vary depending on the electric, water, and gas usage and the property's size and condition. You have to turn on the utility services as soon as you buy the property, because it could take a couple of weeks, and your contractor won't be able to work without these services, which delays the renovations. The final costs in flipping houses are the marketing and sales cost. These include open house expenses, flyers, brochures, and for sale signs. Marketing costs vary depending on your budget and the profit you're aiming for after the sale. You may opt for cold calls or door knocking, which costs nothing if you're on a budget. Some investors hire professional advertisers to create an extensive marketing campaign on billboards, television, and radio. How to choose the right property. Knowing which property to choose is a crucial aspect of house flipping. If you choose the wrong house, you'll end up losing money, either by spending too much on renovations or not being able to make it that appealing for buyers. There are a few factors to keep in mind when looking for the perfect property to flip. The first factor to look for is the property's location, which is the top priority in real estate in general. The city and neighborhood determine the property's value and give you an idea of the selling price after renovations. Additional factors include proximity to various services like health centers, good schools, and public transportation. Proximity to certain areas like a highway or an airport decreases the property's value, so keep this in mind when searching for locations. When gathering information about a property's location, you have to include a demographic profile. What kind of people mostly reside in the neighborhood? Are they mostly families, students, or young couples? A family dense neighborhood means you'll have to look for properties near a school district, while an area with younger groups or single people won't care so much about a school district. Find out whether people prefer to own a car or ride public transportation, and if the area has abundant parking spaces. If people rely on their cars for transportation, then a garage addition or a driveway to your property makes for a good selling point. When looking for a property to flip, you have to think like a buyer. What would you like to have in a property? Search online for the shops and services in the neighborhood. Make notes of the type of activities available in the area to familiarize yourself with the neighborhood. Find out about the tax rates in the city, trash removal services, and other amenities. Take a tour of the neighborhood and ask people these questions to build up a profile to use when looking for properties. The next factor to consider is the property's characteristics. This includes its size, number of rooms and baths, extra constructions like a garage, and any other physical qualities. You want your property to stand out, but to have some of the common characteristics of the neighborhood as well. For example, if most houses are 2,000 square feet, you want to invest in a property that's at least 1,800 square feet with the same number of rooms and baths. If you choose a much smaller house, you may not make enough money worthy enough of your investment. If you choose a much bigger house, it may be too expensive for this area, which may not appeal to buyers interested in this neighborhood. When you find a property in a good location and characteristics, it's time to calculate the costs that come with it. This includes the purchase price, its carrying costs, and renovation costs, as discussed previously. Tips to upgrade a house. A few cheap strategies will turn your property's appearance around and make it more appealing to buyers. First, you can upgrade the light fixtures like wall sconces, entryway lighting, and living room pendants. Using indirect lighting around the house is a cheap and effective way to brighten the interiors and create a warm, homey feel. You can also upgrade all the bathroom and kitchen faucets and cabinet hardware. These details are what most buyers will look for when purchasing a house, and they won't cost much to install. Investing in some kitchen appliance panels can greatly enhance your property's value. Many people can visualize living in a house when they see the kitchen's condition, and they'd prefer not to go through the trouble of upgrading it themselves. Changing the panels will modernize the kitchen's appearance and increase the property's value. Make sure to repair any chipped or broken tiles in the bathroom or the kitchen. These may turn clients away and can be hazardous as people may trip on them. Consider refinishing the hardwood floors as well to give it a brighter look that your clients will appreciate. Another great option is to apply a fresh coat of paint to match the newly refinished floors. If the property has an attic, it's a good idea to insulate it as it adds substantial value to the house. Many buyers ask about the quality of insulation of the house by checking the utility costs. You can make use of fiberglass batting to insulate your attic, which is an effective and inexpensive option. Make sure to install the insulation before showing the house so that its power-saving effects appear on the electric bill, which many potential buyers request to see. Another cheap way to upgrade your house's appearance is to perform some basic landscaping by cutting the grass, planting some flowers, cleaning up the driveway, or fixing any uneven bricks in the house entrance. Many of these renovations are inexpensive, and you can even do them yourself. If you get into the habit of flipping houses, think about performing renovations on your own to cut back on labor costs and maximize your profit. Of course, this only works with minor upgrades, but with more extensive flipping projects, you'll need to hire professional contractors for the job. Common mistakes to avoid. The most common mistakes in flipping houses are not having enough money, time, experience, skills, or patience to complete the project. Your financing options may be limited, or you may have chosen a lender who enforced a hefty interest rate. The renovations may cost more than you anticipated, or you may not have calculated the property's carrying costs. All these factors may cost you a lot of money, And if you weren't able to sell the house quickly, you might end up not getting your money's worth. The time factor is also crucial in flipping houses. It could take you several months to find your buyer, even after renovations. The renovations may take longer than expected, which will delay the sale. If you're showing the property yourself, you may spend a lot of time commuting to and from your house. All these aspects can take a toll on you, especially if you already have a day job. If you don't have enough handy skills to do minor renovations, you'll have to hire a professional, which can cut a huge chunk of your budget. It's a good idea to learn some of these skills, whether online or by taking a few classes, so that you can do all these renovations yourself, which saves you money in future investments. If you don't have enough knowledge of the neighborhood, you may end up picking the wrong property in the right neighborhood, or vice versa. Either way, you may hold on to the property indefinitely. Make sure to use the instructions in this chapter to guide you through the process of choosing the right property to flip. Another common mistake is not taking the time to find the perfect property. It may take you weeks and months to find the right investment, and only the most experienced investors know how to spot the right property. Avoid making the beginner's mistake of buying the first property you see, no matter how tempting it is. You need to perform thorough research before committing to an investment. Don't start with a property that requires a lot of renovations. Instead, take your time to practice your flipping ventures and knowing the market before taking on bigger projects. This chapter discussed the business of flipping houses, the different costs it entails, and the cheapest way to upgrade your property before putting it on the market. Bear in mind the most common mistakes outlined in this chapter and try to avoid them. When you're a novice investor, it's best to take your time when trying to find the right property and not jump to the first opportunity. Your network of contacts will help you in finding the best contractors for the renovations, or you could invest in yourself by learning a few handy skills to implement the upgrade yourself, which is what the real professionals do in this business. Property management. When you own multiple properties, you need to hire property managers to handle the work involved with renting them out. This chapter will explain what property management is and the requirements to become one. We also highlight the responsibilities of a property manager, different types of property management, and the common mistakes to avoid when you operate in this sector. The last part outlines the tips for becoming a successful property manager. What is property management? Property management is the daily oversight of business operations of dwellings or commercial entities by a third-party contractor. Generally, a property manager is responsible for screening tenants, collecting rent, security, ongoing maintenance, and upkeep of the properties. Property managers can manage more than one property at any time, and they are also known as real estate managers, landlords, investment managers, or property administrators. Property management is a lucrative career, and the industry is constantly growing as a result of the increasing demand for residential and commercial properties. A typical property manager is responsible for the following tasks: listing properties, preparing lease agreements, screening tenants, property inspection, setting rental rates and collecting rent, organizing maintenance and repairs, marketing vacant units, communicating with tenants, ensuring that the property complies with rental regulations and local building codes, attending court proceedings, accounting and reporting, providing excellent customer service to all stakeholders. If you want to become a property manager, you should have a minimum level of education and a real estate license. You should have the following skills to deal with multiple parties involved in property management. Good communication skills. As a property manager, you are always in contact with applicants, owners, tenants, and vendors. Therefore, you should have strong verbal and written communication skills. Attention to detail is also vital, since you will be dealing with sensitive information. Problem solving. It is vital to know how to handle tenants' disputes and how to solve problems. Basic accounting. A property manager should keep track of rentals, calculate expenses, and record late fees. Organization. You should be highly organized when you handle multiple buildings. Property management certification. While a high school diploma is a minimum qualification required, you may also need undergraduate studies in property management, risk management, real estate finance, and business administration. You should consider several certifications if you want to become a property manager. The first step is to apply with a real estate broker or a property management company to become a leasing agent. You also need accreditation from the National Apartment Leasing Professional. The next step is property management after obtaining valuable industry basics in this field. When you become a certified property manager, you can oversee all types of properties, including residential, commercial, and industrial. Different types of property management. There are mainly 4 types of property management: residential, commercial, industrial, and recreational. Residential property management. A residential property manager is responsible for dealing with tenants living in family homes, vacation rentals, townhouses, apartments, condominiums, REO properties, and manufactured homes. You will be responsible for screening tenants, collecting rent, and maintaining the property. Commercial property management. As a commercial property manager, you are responsible for handling properties or land used for creating a profit. These properties include office buildings, retail stores, and hotels. Some of these properties are non-residential. Industrial property management. When you manage industrial properties, you will be responsible for various tasks, such as communicating and liaising with owners, ensuring the property complies with regulations and building codes, and coordinating real estate tax reviews. Types of commercial properties include warehouses, distribution facilities, light and heavy manufacturing industries. Recreational property management. This type of property is designed for a specific purpose, such as resorts, sports arenas, theaters, campsites, places of worship, schools, and universities. However, the demand for these services is quite low. Common mistakes to avoid. Your property is one of your biggest investments in life. To succeed in generating more income from your building, you should think like a business owner and avoid common mistakes to capitalize on your investment. Doing it yourself. Many landlords make the mistake of managing their properties to save money. While you may think you will save money by managing your properties on your own, you may realize it will end up costing you more. If you have other commitments, you may not be able to manage several properties. An experienced professional can give you peace of mind since they know the ins and outs of the business. Hiring a real estate agent. A real estate agent is competent enough to sell your home, but it does not necessarily mean they are also a good property manager. These agents do not specialize in property management, and they do not have systems to manage multiple priorities. Others lack knowledge of landlord-tenant laws and dealing with rental properties. Additionally, you should avoid hiring a company that specializes in leasing, not management. These companies cannot find the best tenants, and you can end up facing challenges. Not having property insurance. When you are a landlord, you should know that anything can happen to your property. Therefore, you must get appropriate insurance for your property. If you get the wrong insurance coverage, you may end up losing more money. You should discuss with a licensed insurance professional to get the ideal policy for your property. Not updating your mailing address. Failing to update your postal address is another costly mistake often made by investors. The Homeowners Association can charge you money for not updating your address. You can end up facing foreclosure if you fail to meet the requirements of the responsible board in your area. Being friends with your tenants. As a property manager, you should be courteous when dealing with your residents. You should not become friends with them, since they will become complacent when it comes to paying the rent. You may end up overlooking other critical elements like late payments if you become friends with your tenants. You may also face lawsuits if other tenants discover that you are giving certain residents preferential treatment. Not aware of the condition of your property. The lack of awareness of the physical condition of your property can lead to system failures and high expenditures that can be avoided by regular maintenance. To avoid these preventable costs, you should hire a property inspector to conduct an annual inspection. Make sure you repair all the faults identified before they become bigger. When it comes to maintenance, you should be proactive instead of being reactive. Not checking the tenant's references. Contractors and tenants can have good profiles on paper, but you should not make the mistake of engaging them without calling their references. When you hire a contractor for repair work, it is vital to ensure they have a traceable history to avoid frustrations. Charging unfair rental fees. Many property managers often make the mistake of charging above market rents, which leads to losses. A vacancy in your property is a great liability that should not even happen in the first place. You should charge fair rents, respond quickly to the tenants, and treat them with respect. Unclear tenant rules and regulations. You should be clear about rules and regulations to avoid misunderstandings with your clients. Ensuring that the tenant acknowledges the lease agreement and understands all the rules is essential. When you enforce your guidelines, you should be fair. You also need a monitoring and communication system to help tenants abide by the rules. Failure to settle disputes. Don't rush to call a lawyer or report issues you can settle. You should try to resolve issues that have something to do with the landlord-tenant relationships without taking the legal route, which can be costly. Hiring unprofessional contractors. When a renter reports a fault at your property, make sure you promptly attend to it. Don't try to save money by hiring unprofessional contractors or doing it yourself. If you fail to take care of your tenants, you may end up with a bad reputation, and you will gradually lose them. Even if you know how to fix some of the issues, it is good to call a professional to avoid unnecessary expenses in the future. Use your time to grow your business instead of wasting time on things that professionals can do. Failing to screen tenants. If you are a property manager, you should not be desperate to fill vacancies. You should not go for the first tenant, since they may give you problems. Take your time to screen tenants to avoid headaches of dealing with troublesome individuals. Many landlords often face challenges when it comes to evicting tenants. Some will even end up refusing to pay rent. However, when you find loyal residents, they can stay at your property for a long period. You should not get stuck with people who may cause harm to your business. Allowing residents to handle repairs. You should make it clear in your rules that tenants should repair all faults. Make sure you hire a professional contractor even when the tenant says they are skilled. A renter can do a shoddy job which will cost you more money in the future. Tips and tricks to become a successful property manager. Property management requires you to handle many things that involve tenant issues, maintaining the place, negotiating contracts. The following are some of the things you can consider helping you smoothly manage properties. Be consistent. When you set policies and protocols, you should be consistent to eliminate potential problems that can harm your relationship with your tenants. All rules should be in writing, and the tenant should sign a lease agreement before you offer them a place to stay. Likewise, you must have a protocol for each situation likely to arise. For instance, if a tenant violates a parking policy, the property manager should make appropriate discretion. Keep your accounting books up to date. Maintaining organized financial records concerning rent and property expenses, such as trash removal, maintenance, and employee payroll, is vital. You should know the money coming in and properly manage your expenses to realize your profit goals. You can consider hiring a professional bookkeeper if you don't have time to balance your books. Outsource other tasks. It is a good thing to outsource other tasks like repair work. Specialists should handle certain things if you want to maintain your property in good shape. For example, hire a professional carpet cleaner company if pets have soiled the mat. Do not ignore specific issues since they can be costly in the long run. Perform routine inspection. You should hire a professional to conduct a routine inspection at least once every year. This will help reduce the risk of potential problems developing at your property. The following are some of the items that require an annual inspection. HVAC systems, smoke or fire alarms, emergency door access, roof, windows and doors, power supply. When the inspector identifies a potential problem, quickly respond to it. Keep the right property management tools. You must keep the right property management tools, such as promotional or marketing materials, blank lease copies, and safety items. You should have cleaning materials and other on-site needs, such as office supplies and emergency essentials. Problem-solving skills. You should have good problem-solving skills to be able to solve disputes without hiring a lawyer. Do not threaten tenants with eviction for violating the rules and regulations. Some of the issues can be solved informally, and this will help you create a lasting relationship with the tenants. Maintain office hours. If you are a property manager, you should establish and maintain office hours. This will help the tenants know when you are available for non-emergency situations. The tenants can also contact you easily when they want to make a maintenance call. Regular office hours will also allow prospective tenants to visit you and make inquiries about available vacancies. Other service providers like cleaners, maintenance specialists, and others can contact you easily if you maintain office hours. Communicate effectively. You should communicate effectively with your tenants to know what is expected of them. You should inform them about property maintenance schedules, such as elevator repairs, window cleaning, or roof repairs. Your tenants should also know when you intend to come for an inspection. Send email or SMS updates to the tenants to make proper arrangements to maintain their daily schedules. Dealing with tenants can be stressful. However, you can avoid this by maintaining a positive attitude to keep your sanity. You must try to be a good listener and get to the bottom of every issue reported to your office. Impartiality is also critical when you deal with different people. You should avoid bias, since this can cause disharmony among other tenants. Follow property management trends. Like any other industry, the property sector is dynamic. For instance, things like technology, interest rates, and market trends are constantly changing. Other elements like demographics, overall economy, and housing laws also change. Therefore, you must keep pace with the changes that may impact your business. You need to be proactive so that you are not caught unaware. Make sure you adopt technology and property management software to improve efficiency in your operations. This can go a long way in helping you handle tasks like rent collections, bookkeeping, maintenance calls, and others. Respond to your residents' needs. You must keep an open line of communication with your renters and quickly respond to their needs. Alert them about upcoming events that can affect them and show your commitment to improving their experience. This will increase the chances of loyal residents renewing their leases. You should also be community-oriented, and you can achieve this by hiring a community manager. This person can handle communal tasks like trash removal and know the region well. Community managers can promote engagement among all members. They can also arrange social events to bring together people from different backgrounds. Prioritize marketing. Daily marketing is critical if you are concerned about the growth of your business. You need to look for the right clients. It is important to market your properties to prospective renters if you have vacant units. Choose appropriate channels to market your business. For example, social media has gained popularity in recent years, and it can help you reach your targeted audience. You should also aim to expand your portfolio by reaching out to many property owners. Create a powerful portfolio that will make you stand out from the rest. Know your market and properties. If you want to be a successful property manager, you should know all your properties. If a potential renter calls, you should be ready to answer any question. Try to be honest when you talk to clients. Lying can damage your image. The other important thing you should do is know your market. You must know your competitors and the key property owners in the market. This will help you decide on effective strategies that will give you a competitive advantage. You should understand the threats that exist in the market so that you will be able to come up with a good strategy. Engage residents. It is vital to engage with the residents when making key decisions that can impact them. You consult them when you want to make big changes. Tenant involvement also helps you strengthen your relationship with them. Engagement also helps retain current tenants and attract new renters. Try to act on the information you get from the tenants to build trust among them. Set short and long-term goals. When you run this kind of business, you must have short and long-term goals. Make sure they are measurable and do not try to do the impossible. For example, your long-term goal in property management should be about increasing revenue. You can achieve this by working with several landlords. Try to offer great service to your clients so that you can attract more people. You should stick to the parameters you set. Only make changes that will make a positive impact on your business. Make your property owners happy. Try to find ways to make your property owners happy if you want to be a successful property manager. You can do this by collecting rent from the tenants on time and keeping the property well maintained. You should ensure that all damages are repaired on time and try to get reliable tenants who are easy to retain. You can also send a gift to celebrate the owner's anniversary. Send complimentary reports to the owners so they know what needs to be done on their properties to retain clients. Ask for resident feedback. Feedback from the tenants is a core component that can determine your success as a property manager. If you receive a maintenance call, you should make a follow-up to check if the issue was resolved. Ask the resident to leave some feedback and try to make the process simple. You can also conduct a feedback survey to gain insight into the needs of different people using different properties under your management. If someone is moving out of the property, you can also ask them to leave feedback. This information will help you make informed decisions to retain tenants. Property management is a lucrative industry since it continues to grow. We have explained what property management is and the things you need to know when you decide to venture into this sector. It is vital to understand your properties and the market in which you operate. More importantly, you must have the right tools for the task. Wholesaling, basic brokering. Property wholesaling is a great way to invest in real estate. Many investors have made profit by wholesaling different properties in a relatively shorter time than other real estate investments like flipping houses or lease options. While other real estate options can be just as lucrative, wholesaling has numerous advantages. So, what is wholesaling and how does it work exactly? Let's take a look at how you can start as a wholesaler, the right markets to choose from, and how to avoid some of the most common mistakes in this business. What is wholesaling? As a wholesaler, you'll obtain a property's contract from the seller and then find an end buyer to purchase that property. In this case, you won't own the property, but you'll just be responsible for selling its purchase rights to another person. This type of real estate investment is one of the easiest ways to gain a quick profit without investing your own money. You don't need substantial capital to work as a wholesaler, and you can use this as a stepping stone in the real estate business. Your primary business objective in wholesaling is to find a property owner selling their house for less than the market value. This is typically a house that needs significant repairs, which is why it's being sold for cheap. You'd be convincing the seller to put you in charge of the contract to assign it to a buyer. In return, you get a percentage of the property's cost, known as a wholesaling fee. The buyer is usually an investor looking for a fixer-upper, but doesn't want to find a property or convince owners to sell it. A real estate investor would buy this property and turn it around to sell it at a much higher price. As a broker, you gain your income by finding buyers for these properties. The wholesaling business has minimal risks because you don't have to invest your money, but it requires a great deal of market research and negotiation skills. You have to spot the properties being sold under their market value and negotiate with the sellers to give you the rights to buy them. To close the sale, you need to establish a wide range of contacts and create a wholesaling buyers list. If you are able to cover all these aspects, you'll gain a powerful insight into the world of real estate, and you can use this experience in other types of property investments. This helps you expand your business and establish your reputation. Let's take a look at a simple example to clarify the idea. Let's assume you find a homeowner who's facing difficulty selling their property, which is distressed and needs extensive renovations to be inhabitable or attractive to potential buyers. The owner doesn't want to go through the trouble of renovating the property, so they consider a wholesale agreement with a broker like yourself. The agreement states that you have the right to buy the property at a lower rate than its market value because it requires renovations. You'd then find another buyer offering to purchase the property at a higher rate than the original owner's selling price. You sell the rights to buy the house to the new buyer, so you won't be buying the property itself, but merely the rights to purchase it. In this case, your wholesaling fee is the difference between the original owner's asking price and the end buyer's offer. While house flipping seems like a similar concept, wholesaling is considered less risky because you don't buy or fix the property. You only invest some of your time to find potential sellers and buyers. However, the time and money spent in wholesaling is a fraction of that spent on house flipping. When you expand your real estate business, there's no reason you can't invest in both methods. Wholesaling laws. There's a wide misconception that wholesaling is an illegal practice. However, it doesn't have to be when performed correctly. Wholesaling rules and regulations exist to protect wholesalers, so make sure you learn the laws of your state. Remember, you're not participating in a contract as a real estate agent, but as a mediator between the seller and end buyer. For this reason, you have to disclose your will to purchase equity in the property without actually buying it. You'll have to acquire a proof of fund document as evidence of your intentions. The process is considered illegal if the contract is ill-structured and doesn't include a disclosure of your intent. An obvious question comes to mind. Do you need a license to work as a wholesaler? You don't have to be a licensed real estate agent to mediate the property's contract. You just need to be the primary buyer and then sell the property to the end buyer. You can still wholesale if you have a license, but you must disclose your position in the contract. This means you need to mention that you're not the property's owner, but you just have the right to purchase by disclosing your valid purchase agreement. You must always check the rules specific to your region before attempting to wholesale properties. Make sure to consult a real estate lawyer to guide you through this process. Here are some general rules and best practices to keep into account. Disclose your position as the principal buyer when closing the deal with the original owner and the principal seller when closing the deal with the end buyer. Make sure the contract is valid and includes the same aspects and clauses as a typical purchase contract. This involves writing legitimately binding sales and purchase terms. It's best to have an attorney present to confirm the terms. Be mindful of the language used in the contract, as it may be confusing to first-timers. It's a good idea to pay a deposit to the original owner to validate your intent to buy the purchase rights. In real estate terms, this deposit is known as earnest money, and it shows the owner you're serious about this investment. If you have enough money to fix the property, it becomes a good backup plan in case you can't find a buyer for the distressed property. You can fix it yourself and then sell it at a much higher price. This way, you've combined the advantages of wholesaling and flipping houses without paying full money for the property. Instead, you'll just finance the repairs to make it more appealing to buyers. Building a buyer's list. A buyer's list is simply a record of potential investors always looking for new deals. It includes contact information like full names, phone numbers, emails, buying criteria, type of funding, and source of referral. You should update your list regularly to expand your network of contacts. The term buyer's list is essential in any business, but it specifically refers to wholesaling in real estate. Establishing a reliable buyer's list requires a lot of time and effort, as you won't find a general list for all investors. A buyer's list is a wholesaler's top asset. You'll need it to identify a potential wholesale property and find a buyer. You shouldn't wait for a property to build your list, as this will lead to accumulated costs and delayed transactions. If you have a proper buyer's list, you'll have a few leads to contact and speed up the selling process. Remember that wholesaling is about securing profit in a shorter time frame, and having a wide network increases your chances of succeeding in this business. When establishing your list, you should have a sorting system to access your leads easily. Categorize them according to budget, property criteria, like commercial, multi or single family, or residential homes, and project type, whether it's a rental, fixer-upper, or prehab property. Each investor has their own approach to wholesaling property deals, so it's up to you to match them with their ideal property. This way, you'll be customizing the wholesaling process by saving time and approaching your target investors. There are several approaches and strategies to build a reliable buyer's list. The first method is to attend networking events. You can find many potential buyers and investors and add their contacts to your list. Look up networking events happening in your area on social media platforms. Real Estate Investor Association, or REIA, meetings are an excellent starting point to get in touch with professional investors. Make sure to attend courthouse functions, where you can talk to potential buyers, get their contacts, and find out what kind of property they're interested in. Home and trade shows are also great places to build your list. Don't forget to talk to real estate attorneys and money lenders in these events, because they have a deep insight into the various business transactions of real estate. They usually have a wide network, so don't limit yourself to only targeting potential investors. Remember to create a brand-efficient business card to pass along in your meetings and networking events. Email marketing is another great tool to reach numerous contacts with one click. Many investors use this method to reach other investors and buyers to add them to their list. You can also send direct mails, which help you to expand your reach. You just need to identify your target audience and the type of mail piece to send them before setting up an inbound marketing system. This way, investors will approach you instead of having to look for them in the market. Another important method is to use content marketing to pique investors' interest. This approach doesn't necessarily market your brand, but it simply offers an idea of your services as a wholesaler by posting pictures and videos of your wholesale properties to build trust among investors, increase your visibility, and help you generate more leads. You need to manage accounts on several social media platforms, as an active online presence is crucial in attracting investors these days. It's also important to invest some of your time in building and managing a professional website displaying your wholesaling services. This allows investors to visit your pages and website to browse for information and contact you to close deals. Another common way to reach investors is to use a bandit sign with a simple, catchy line with your phone number underneath. You can either print the words or write them by hand. Once you have a property to sell, spread 20 to 30 signs in your target market. Make sure to add these signs in crowded areas like malls, business districts, and busy intersections. If you come across a for rent sign, take a picture of it on your phone and contact the number included, securing some contacts for potential landlords who may consider expanding their properties. How to find wholesale properties. To succeed as a wholesaler, you must find the perfect property that fits the wholesaling criteria. Searching for listings in the multiple listing service, or MLS, is an effective way to generate leads, but you need to use several ways to increase your chances of finding the right property. There are two types of properties: listed and unlisted. Private sellers may own properties found in the MLS that are in pre-foreclosure or are owned by a bank. These properties are easy to find but not easily secured because many investors target them. The unlisted properties are harder to find but offer a potentially higher profit margin. These hidden gems need some extra time and money to find, but the returns can be very lucrative. Private sellers list their properties on the MLS by forming an agreement with a real estate agent. They are easy to find, but you'll have to go through an extensive list of properties to find the ideal one. You'll have to find a distressed property and still deal with the agent representing that property. However, it's still a good way to look for leads for your next investment. Another type of listed property is pre-foreclosure properties that need the bank's approval before the transaction. Sometimes the procedures can be delayed as many banks enforce restrictions on the property's sale or purchase for a certain period. In these cases, you need to learn the bank's policies to find out if wholesaling is even an option and avoid wasting your time. For unlisted properties, sending direct mails like postcards, catalogs, letters, and brochures to owners in foreclosure, owners with properties in probate, or absentees. A direct mail gives those owners an idea to consider selling their property and contact you to handle the process. You can also use outdoor signs to find properties similar to the bandit sign strategy. These can include banners, billboards, and even car magnets and stickers. Use online platforms like Google and Facebook for pay-per-click advertising. While it seems like an outdated idea, it's still sufficient to generate leads. Each platform has an advantage in advertising. For example, Facebook settings allow you to target specific demographics and quality of people, while Google attracts people using certain keywords in their searches. Another traditional but effective way is driving for dollars. This term refers to driving around your neighborhood to try and spot potential properties for wholesale and contact the owners to negotiate a deal. Common mistakes to avoid. The first mistake you need to avoid is not performing extensive market research. You need to know your target market and audience to know how to buy the right house in the right neighborhood. You need to choose a location that you can market to potential investors. This brings us to the second mistake, which is not understanding what investors are looking for. To find the ideal buyer, you must talk to them about their needs and vision of their ideal property before you even suggest the properties you're already holding. The next common mistake is not staying in touch with people on your buyer's list. Remember, this list is your greatest asset, so you must cultivate your relationships with these potential buyers to know whether or not they shift their interests to other neighborhoods. Even if you have a reliable buyer's list, keep going to events and meetings. It's the only way to maintain and expand your network to reach potential investors in this business. In this chapter, we discussed wholesaling and how to find potential properties and investors in the market. Remember, your goal is not to manipulate sellers to give your purchase rights. It's better to work with them so that both of you can get what they need out of the transaction. Take every investment opportunity as a means to learn more about the business. Establish rapport with investors in the market to gain respect in the community. Practice socializing and speaking publicly whenever you can to improve your communication and negotiation skills, which are your main assets in the real estate business.